Hello and welcome to your next Emoryi Shawl cowl video. In the last video we went over how to do color changes if you're following the pattern exactly how it's written. But if you're anything like me, you hate weaving in ends. In fact, I will not finish a project just because I have ends to weave in. And I was talking with Totally Rad Jess about this, and we came up with a way of not having to weave in as many ends in this pattern. And to do that, we're going to be carrying the color up through the chain 3. And I'm going to show you how to do that in this video. So I am just now wrapping up my final stitch of row 9, and I'm going to be adding in back in color A because I had chopped it off and cut it off when I was showing you how to do it before. So I just now added in color A into that final stitch so that my chains are seamless. So what I like to do is I like to work around the color B or whatever color and hug it into my yarn. I'm going to zoom in so you can see where I'm hugging in at. So the green yarn is now wrapped up into the pink yarn. My pink yarn is wrapping around, right? So I'm going to create a chain 1, and then I'm going to twist it again. And this does mean that I'm probably going to have to untwist my yarn as I'm working, but that's okay. So I'm going to wrap my yarn around the green yarn. I'm going to chain 1. So now I have 2 chains. I'm going to wrap that pink yarn around again, cross it over, and I'm going to chain 1. So that brought up my yarn, and we're going to drop the green yarn behind. I'm going to untwist my yarn here a bit, and I'm going to continue on to row 10. So I'm going to turn my work. And I'm going to zoom back out a bit because I don't think you guys will need to be quite that close in. Okay. So for row 10, we are now working with color A, and we are going to do 2 double crochet in the first stitch, right there. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to skip 1, and then we're going to double crochet into the next stitch. Did I do that right? Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into next stitch. Chain 1, skip 1. Yep, I did. Okay. We're going to be working our stitches, hugging that chain into the double crochet again. This time we're working into, it's a little bit easier because you can see which color we're working into. So anytime we're working with color A, you're going to be working into another row of color A now. Anytime you work with color B, you're going to be working into a row with color B in it to create the vertical striping. So we're going to yarn over, we're going to insert our hook from front to back. My yarn's back here in the back hanging out. And then I'm going to pull up a loop. I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And again, remember not to tighten that loop down as you're doing that because you're going to want to maintain the height of your stitches. And chain 1, skip 1. Again, I'm going to work into the next stitch of color A, hugging that chain 1 into the stitches. Like so. So we're going to continue across working those stitches and hugging those stitches, those chain ones, into the double crochets until we get to the chain one space. I'm going to go ahead and finish this row off camera, and I will be back to show you how I'm going to begin row 11 with color B, so that you can see how the yarn's going to be carried and everything else. So I will be right back. Alrighty, so I just finished row 10, and I put the stitch marker on the loop of color A. It's a walking stitch marker, and it will, being on that loop, it will make it so that the work will not become unraveled while I'm working across with color B. So that's there. And then I also, of course, still have my stitch marker here to mark the center of the shawl. Instead of cutting our string and turning our work, this method has us return to the beginning of row 10 and pick up our color B. If I had stitched this correctly, I would have actually done 3 double crochets at the beginning of row 10, and I'll add these instructions as a note in the unit of row orchids for you as well, so that you don't have to try to work into this chain like I'm doing now. So I chained 3. I did not turn my work. I'm still on the right side of the fabric with this lovely ribbing, and I'm going to double crochet twice into the first stitch or the chain stitch, depending on how you decide to do it. I'll have both versions of those instructions again in row orchids. And the next instruction for row 11 is to repeat row 9. So we're going to double crochet in the next stitch as well. And we're going to chain 1, we're going to skip this stitch, and we're going to be working into the previous row of color B. So we're going to yarn over, we're going to insert our hook from front to back, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, again hugging that chain 1 into our double crochet stitch and creating an interlocking crochet pattern and the reversible vertical striping, this faux brioche. So I'm going to continue with that across. When I get to the end, I will be pulling color A back up, and I'll show you how that works. Alrighty, show you how I'm going to carry up color A so that I can use it again. And we're going to repeat this process back and forth, carrying up our yarn on either direction. So you're going to do a row, you're going to go back to the beginning of that row, and you're going to carry yarn over. And then once you've done 2 of those, then you can turn your work and return working the other direction. So I'm almost complete with my stitch here. I have my color A loop on this stitch marker, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that for now, because I'll be putting it on color B next. Set that aside. And then we will grab this loop, and I'm going to pull it onto here. That's going to act as my yarn over, and I'm going to pull through both. Now, oops, I didn't finish my stitches. I pulled out too many stitches. Okay. So this part gets tricky if you make a mistake like I just did, and that's okay. It's not a big deal. You just want to be careful not to pull out any of your work of color A. So I actually needed to do a couple more stitches here, and I apparently pulled them out while I was removing that stitch marker, and that's just fine. So I'm going to finish up this row. We're working around my gnarly strings. There we go. Okay, I'm on the last stitch for reals this time, and I'm going to, again, loop the color A onto my hook, and that's going to count as my yarn over, and I'm going to pull it up like so. I'm going to pull that tight because I don't want to lose, I have to pull it tighter because I don't want to lose the stitch definition there on the end. Okay, so to carry up color A and hug color green in again, I'm going to be wrapping my string around the green, yarning over, chaining one, chaining one. So it's hugging that string up and pulling it up. I'm going to untangle my yarn here. This is just the way I do it. You guys can definitely carry up the yarn differently if you want to. I understand that it's a pain in the butt to untangle your yarn too. But this is just the way that it feels most secure, and then my tension is a little bit more on point that way. So that's just the way I prefer to do it. So now we have color A pulled up with color green going through that chain. We are now at both of these strings are now at the end of that work across. So we're going to be returning, and I'm going to turn the work after we chain 3. And we're going to rinse and repeat the instructions. So when you work color A in this section, the first color that goes across in the Faux Brioche sections, I'm going to add in that extra stitch and not count the chain as a stitch this time. It's just way easier to find the first stitch that way when you start working with color B, or in this case, my green color. So we're going to be repeating row 10, but I'm 3 double crocheting instead into that first stitch instead of 2. Again, not counting the chain 3 as a stitch in this case, using this method. We're going to chain 1 and skip 1. We're going to double crochet into the next. Going to chain 1, and I'm going to skip 1, and I'm returning to working into the previous row with color A. So I'm double crocheting into that stitch, hugging that chain 1 into my stitch, and I got tangled. So again, chain 1, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook, wrapping that and hugging that chain into the double crochet stitch. So that's that. Don't hesitate to ask if you have any questions or if I can provide better instructions. I'm doing my best. This is my first time filming. So just let me know what you guys need. I'm happy to hop on and do video tutorials at any time. Alright, for now that's it, and I look forward to doing the crochet along with you all and our partners. We'll be hanging out with Dio on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and Boss Kitty on Mondays and Wednesdays. We'll see you there.